Here with Mark Brew. I think 18 seasons as head coach at Lee University. Was NAIA, but transitioned to Division II. I think 7 years after you got into it, and getting close to 700 wins. But this year's recipient of the Dave Kylitz Ethics Award. So congrats, Coach.
Well, thank you. Appreciate that. And great to be with you, Ryan.
What did Dave Alltop mean to your career?
Wow. I don't know if we have a whole podcast, might take the whole scenario, but listen, as a student athlete, I played for him for 3 years, and so it's some of the most formative years of my life, and he was a tremendous influence on me as a person, as a player, and then obviously to be able to stay on staff with him there at Trevecca at the time where I was playing and he was coaching, and then obviously he gets the job at Lee a few years later, and I think my coaching career is over, at that point. And little did I know, behind the scenes, he had already worked out with the president at Lee, Dr. Khan, to give me the opportunity to come here and be his assistant, full time. And so it was a dream come true. But you rank people in influence in your life, and he's up there, at the very top of my list, for me personally, and just in regards to not necessarily the X's and O's, but the how to treat people, how to coach the game the right way, how to impact players. And so learned so much from him. Still get the opportunity, still here in the community, to have lunch with him from time to time. He comes out to the games, and he never gives me advice, and which I think is his way of saying, "Hey, you're doing a good job. Just keep rolling." So.
I mean, did he mention at all when you were playing for him that maybe you should think about getting into coaching?
For me personally, my life's always revolved around into coaching. Three of the most influential, we talk about Coach Alltop, but Elliot Johnson was also my first coach at Trevecca, who's a Hall of Famer in the ABCA, and my high school coach Pierre Lyons were all the biggest people in my life in regards to influence. And so for me, it was all I wanted to do. It was all I wanted to do was coach. And so everything I did was try to navigate through that door. And fortunately got the opportunity to coach alongside of him as a student assistant, and then, later as a full-time assistant. And so, but obviously he helped shape me and push me into a lot of areas, helped me grow as a coach. One thing I'll say that I always try to do with my current assistants is give them opportunity, give them leeway to do things and to grow. Because I think if we just tell them what to do all the time, and if you just told me what to do all the time, I probably wouldn't have grown as much as I did. And so, very thankful for that, and the belief in me, to let me make my own way, so to speak, with his influence over me at the same time.
Is it easier for you to handle that with your assistants because you were an assistant for so long, and coaches treated you that way as an assistant?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I have a soft spot for assistants, and I think we all had that moment where we were an assistant coach at some point in time. But, like for me, it was like, he treated me so well. He treated me with such great respect and opportunity to allow me to make mistakes and to grow. And I want to make that happen, for my assistant coaches, and to allow them that same opportunity, and to grow them as young men, and people that go out and get their new opportunity at the new place that, you watch them. It's exciting to go back, and kind of reflect and see the successes they've had, and the growth they've had as a coach. And so, it's kind of your gift back into the coaching fraternity. And so, for him investing in me, it's something that I feel like I have to do, and I have a responsibility to do.
Was that an easy transition for you going from assistant to head coach at Lee because you'd been there?
Yeah, I mean, it was more seamless probably than going into another environment. Obviously, the culture was established. We had a great culture of kids and players, and assistant coaches, and the university's set up for us, allowed for success on the field. Being transparent, I'm sure at the beginning I was more X's and O's oriented, and trying to, drink water from a fire hydrant at that point in time. You're like getting a lot of information. It is way different on the other side, being a head coach versus an assistant coach, but, the influence he had on me showed me a great model of how that should look and how it should happen. And so I feel like it was a seamless transition in regards to, the player personnel and the university and things like that. And so but it's definitely vastly different on that side.
It's the
And
paperwork piece, isn't it?
yeah, it's it's like I'm sitting here this morning filling out NCAA forms and those things, and so things you don't think about administratively that you have to do, and we're in addition to that you were aerating and overseeing our field today, so you got that aspect of it, and so it's a well-rounded job to say the least.
Did you keep your on-field responsibilities when you took over as head coach?
I didn't, I felt the need. We're fortunate that Lee believes in our program and at a level that we have two full-time assistants and a grad assistant. And so, you know, I, though I feel like I kept my hand in that, and I did pitching for Coach Alltop, I kept my hand in that area. I felt like for them to be able to respond to the new pitching coach better, I needed to step back a little bit and allow him, because I knew there would be that feel that they would still defer to me, or anything like that. And I didn't want that to be the case. I wanted them to be able to have trust in the new coach and things like that. So, I took the opportunity to kind of more manage the whole program, and I think some coaches, it's hard. We all have different resources, we all have different setups, but I think, for me personally, it was an opportunity for me to take a step back and look overall, at everything, which I needed to be able to do because I had never had that view, as just a pitching coach and a recruiting guy. I never got that, even though we all help and all our assistant coaches help in all areas. It was definitely an opportunity for me to kind of take a step back.
When did you add director of facilities and game management responsibilities?
That was added this year. We've got a new athletic director, Larry Carpenter, athletic director for years, retired into a senior advisory role. And John Maupin, our former golf coach, took over as the athletic director. And all of us as coaches want success in our department. I think we all went to Coach Maupin and said, "Hey, what can we do to help? How can we make this transition for you as easy as possible?" Knowing that it was going to be difficult for him transitioning from a coaching role to an administrative role, and so a lot of us stepped up, and so he created this framework of what he felt like would help make him successful and make the department successful. Things that we were already doing some, but maybe didn't have a title attached to it, and he created this vision for what he wanted, and we all jumped on board to help out. And administration is always something I've had a desire to dabble my foot in a little bit, and so it's just an opportunity to kind of put my foot in that door and do some things administratively there. And I enjoy the facilities piece. Like, I enjoy working on a field. I enjoy those things. That's my therapy, so to speak, as a coach. And places I can go relax and get on a mower and spend a couple hours just decompressing from all the things that you do.
So have you thought about how you're going to delegate some of those duties maybe in the spring when you get going?
Yeah, I mean, we're fortunate that we have a couple grad assistants too as well who help with that responsibility, of setup and game day operations. And each coach also provides support as game day administrators and things like that. So, in regards to what I'm doing the most of is making sure all those things are covered. Making sure all those pieces of the puzzle come to fruition at the event and the game day experience for everybody. We have a great athletic communications office who does a lot of that side of it, the PA, the scoreboards, the tech, the statting and things like that. And so, I don't have to deal with that too much. More of mine is making sure the facility's up and ready to go, making sure the game day administrator is on site, and making sure that, obviously at the post side of the facility that it's flipped over for, because when you're using a basketball venue, for instance, you got both basketball teams practicing, you got volleyball playing right now. So there's a lot of carryover. And so getting the facility broke down as quickly as possible so it can be open for practices is an important piece of the puzzle.
We do have a lot of coaches that have to take care of their own fields. So from an aerating seating part, are you doing it twice a year with the aerating and seating?
we do the aeration and seeding once a year in October. We'll do aerating again and probably the summer just to get a little bit more growth into it. So we have a great physical plant department that provides some support in that area with especially the big ticket items in regards to big tractor, big pieces of equipment. But we do the day-to-day operations of the facility. I share that with my assistant coaches, and we all do a good job of that because I feel like it's our as any coach will say, it's your showpiece. It's you want your players to come to practice and feel like they've got a great facility to play on. You want your recruits to show up and say, "Wow, that's awesome surface," and then you want just the playability of it to be great. And so it's something we take serious and that we think is an important piece of the puzzle, and that we want to make sure that our whole program spends a part of that. So these big ticket big project items, have to come around a couple times a year, and so it's definitely fun when it gets done, because it's getting through it. Like I was aerating and with a walk behind aerator, and that thing will beat you up to death,
Yes, it
and
will.
so just a little sore today after doing that over the weekend.
Players have any field responsibilities?
Yeah, we always do post practice responsibilities for players. One thing we've instituted a lot of is a couple times a year having a work day just to create pride in your environment. Curbside appeal, things like that, making sure the guys realize that we all have a part in this, and that I want them to have ownership in it. I want them to feel pride in this. And what we have, and our school's invested in us at a great level, and we appreciate that, and we're very thankful for that. But at the same time, we're stewards of that, so we should take care of those things. So if it's, some days we do some pressure washing, we do some, obviously, upgrade projects of some sort on the field, and then obviously you got the daily at the conclusion of practice, making sure the field's raked and smooth and it's ready and put to bed for the next day.
How often do you treat the grass for like crabgrass and some of that stuff? Are you
Yeah.
treating it ever?
You know, um, I'm not a huge treatment guy. I think if you're cutting routines and um, your seeding routines and aerating and overseeding routines are good, I think you minimize that. We do as needed. I won't say we do it a lot. We've probably had one treatment of in regards to weeds or anything like that over the last couple of years. It's been good for us. It's worked for us. Fertilization, same thing. A lot of people fertilize, every 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks, depending on a schedule routine. For us, we're taking looks at what's going on, how the grass is reacting, how it's growing, how it's thriving, and things like that. And so it's not just a automatic program; it's more of a specific plan. When we see the need, then we start to throw the fertilizer down and those type of things.
Yeah, because that's why I asked too. Because obviously, if you treat for crabgrass and some of that, you can't seed at that time of the year
Yeah,
because the seed
correct.
won't take.
Yeah, absolutely. So, there's some of that pieces in there. A lot of people pre-emerge, post-emerge in the spring, things like that. Again, we just haven't had to do it, and we've been fortunate. We feel like we stay on top of things, and I can't say honestly, I've picked weeds, out of our field, but that's our weed management right now is me walking around and seeing spots and just hand pulling, and things like that, which, to be honest with you, works as good as having to put a whole application on the whole field.
Yeah.
So,
Were you excited about the transition to Division Two from NAIA?
yeah, I'll be honest. Like, it was big for us. Like, we had great success at the NAI. We had a great model. We felt like for success, and then all that was going to be thrown out the door. So as a coach, you naturally go to what are we going to do now? How are we going to manage this process? How are we going to make that adjustment? In addition, our school chose and the Gulf Conference chose us, which was a big challenge for us because it's been a league tradition steeped in state institutions. Lee's a private institution, and where these larger institutions would, maybe at least cost of attendance, is totally different. So you're not comparing apples to apples. So, we had to create a new model, for recruiting. We had to create a new model for sustainability and success. And so, we hit the recruiting circuit on the high school side more than we ever had in our lives. Because we had a lot of transfer connections and the NAI level, and the NAI naturally lends itself probably to that. But so we had to morph and change, and so clearly we feel like we've done a good job navigating that process. It was difficult early because you've got that probationary period where you're allowed 2 years to kind of come up to speed and make sure all your processes are in place for being able to the paperwork, as we mentioned earlier, those type of things, showing what you're doing. And then it's tough to ask kids in that 2 year window to come to school, compete, and not have a chance to play for a championship, and so that's a hard. And so I got a soft spot for those guys that came in that window that took that chance on us and then came out the other side.
Well, that's where
And
you have
so,
to do it with high school kids too,
yes,
because they got a
correct.
4 year window. Like that's where you,
Absolutely.
you almost you almost have to do it with high
Yeah.
school kids there
Yeah.
because they've got a 4 year window where they know on the back end of those 2 years they're gonna
Yep.
junior and senior year they got a chance to compete for a
Yeah,
championship.
100%. And you talk to them about being building blocks. Like, hey, you're the first. You're going to be the first class to come through and be eligible for a postseason, first opportunity to win a GSC championship. All those pieces in there. So definitely it was a big piece of the puzzle. And then just there was a portion of guys that were sticking around in their last year or two. And so they could have easily transferred out. They could have easily went somewhere else, to play for a championship, and they stuck with us. And, I'll forever appreciate it from that group of guys.
How were your trips to Lewiston? I mean, your second year as a head coach, you guys won 63 games. You finished
So,
runner up that year. Is that an NAI record for wins?
so I don't know if it is or isn't. I've
I
never
didn't
really
look. I
looked.
wanted to look. I'm like 63
So
wins.
it's funny because to win that many games, you got to have a great year. Number one, but number two, like we played to the max of every tournament. So we went to the conference tournament. We played to the championship game in the conference tournament. We went to the region. We played to the championship of the region. We went to the super region. We played to the championship. Then we went to the World Series. And we played to the championship. So it was crazy. It was a great year. But I mean, Lewiston, for anybody that has not experienced it,
Last year was
it's
my first year.
it's the most amazing
It's so much
thing
fun.
I've ever seen in my life. How a community comes together in that 1.5 weeks of baseball, and you're sitting there, and even if LC State's not playing in the night game, there's still
There's
three,
still a
four
good
thousand
crowd
people
there.
sitting there. If they're playing, it's 6, 7,000. So, and we've had the good fortune of playing them multiple times in that night game in a great environment and having that opportunity. It was awesome. We made trips from 2007 through 2013 every year. So we got to know some great people out there. Still keep up with them to today. Just your host business or family, however you want to call it. Just awesome people that do a great job administrating it. So, it's we haven't been to Cary yet. We hope to get there soon. I've been to Omaha to watch as a patron, and it's all obviously clearly a great experience. And I've not been out to Grand Junction. I've been to Enid, and I've been to where Tusculum was hosting up in Greenville for the Division III. So I've seen a lot, and I can't imagine many being better than that environment.
I really like their opening ceremonies, how they let the games play out and then they do it right before the night game on the first day. I think that's honestly the best way to do the opening
Yeah.
ceremonies.
Yeah, there's no great way to do it, but they do a really good job administrating it. Everybody feels cared for.
Yep.
Everybody loves the experience. You get to they've got a system where all the teams are out on the field, and it's a part of the pregame for that final night game. That
And the
evening.
ABCA camp, like
Yeah,
that's the
yeah,
cool thing. Like
that's awesome.
that ABCA
You know,
camps had a lot of tradition.
yeah,
The day before, night before, like
yeah.
that's a unique thing to that tournament. That there's an ABCA sponsored clinic going on before the tournament starts.
100%. Our players
That
got
gets
to
more people to
participate
show
in
up
that.
too. You're going to get those kids
Yeah,
excited about going to watch
it
those
does.
teams.
It does. And we had, actually, to date myself, all the way back to Tulsa, Oklahoma. where the NAI World Series was there. I think Coach Altop was one of the founding coaches of that ABCA clinic, and I was able to, as an assistant coach, to accompany him to Tulsa. It was my kind of first experience of a NAI World Series, and so I've seen it when it's not been in Lewiston, and I've seen it when it's been in Lewiston, and I can tell you right now, it's way better where it's at right now, and it should be there.
Yeah.
So.
Any Ed Chef stories?
Oh wow. I tell you what, first of all, like what a tremendous coach, what a tremendous the battles we had with him were great. He probably got the upper hand on us more than we did, out there, but we got him a couple times and uh, you know, just the aura around him, like just how he hits infield outfield, how they, you know, everything's orchestrated, the throwing piece and things like that, and of course you hear the old stories. I don't know how many of them are true or not, but there's some things,
They are, because I interviewed Jake Taylor
so
last year, and he
yeah, I
played for
mean,
him in
tough,
those
pure
'90s
pure
teams.
mental toughness, pure mental toughness, and
As true as
like
yours.
it's hard to out tough his team, like it really is, and so I guess what you have left to do is outplay them. So that's about it.
Have you had to adjust your coaching style over the years at all?
I think naturally my coaching style's adjusted just in regards to, I won't say I'm older and wiser. That's probably a poor term. Older, yes. Wiser, maybe not. But at the same time, like I think I realized a long time ago, as I was, like I said, I was beating my head against the wall trying to have success, and then I started to realize, like, hey, we can do this in a 2.5 hour window, even though the NCAA may give us 4 hours in a day to practice, and so we tried to go more high energy, high intensity in practice, try to push guys to go faster and then get off the field quicker, keep our bodies a little fresher instead of having that long day. Because part of our long days are scrimmages now when you have a lot of guys going to the mound, and that obviously is naturally going to lead itself to a longer window. But I think I've definitely changed. I think we've definitely, obviously, the game has changed in regards to tech, and I like to. I got a quote on my desk. It says, "Pride makes you defensive and closed to change." And so, if you think you've got it figured out, you think you've always done it this way and it will always work that way, you're getting ready to be humbled. And the game is ever evolving. And for me, though I don't claim to know everything about tech, I don't claim to know everything about cutting edge coaching techniques. I do think we've tried to implement a lot of things and to keep moving forward and progressively in those areas. And so I think that's been something that has been a challenge for me. But I also think, we all know that growth comes outside of your comfort zone. So, for us as a staff and as a program, I think it's allowed us to grow more, to expand more, to attract maybe a player that maybe we normally wouldn't have, attracted because of our forward thinking.
I mean, what tech have you dove into? What do you think like's been most beneficial for you all?
Yeah, I mean, we've done blast sensors for the hitters. We've done, we do Rapsodo consistently, with our pitchers. We obviously have gone into the game changer armbands, arm signs, for the system of pitch calling and things like that. Because, naturally, everybody's trying to gain advantages in this game. Pace of play has become a big topic, and so keeping up and not getting dinged by that, but also being able to get your sign sequence in without getting picked.
That's the
Without
biggest
getting,
thing, like the pitch comp
it's
stuff. I think that's where
yeah,
it's
so
changed. I think it'll go to the offensive side eventually
yeah,
too, because the same thing. You don't have to worry about the
right.
opposing team picking your signs with the pitch comp stuff.
Yeah, naturally, I think that's where it'll progress. I can see at a point where either the armband or a point where pitch comm goes into the ear and goes into even a hitter's helmet, and the game is just totally revolutionized.
Because
And there'll be
football's
some
been
that,
doing it
yeah,
forever.
yeah, and
Football's
you're
used
right.
that
I
forever.
mean, like I said, every other sports are already doing this, and you can see it work. And so, for baseball to lag behind, like I mean, even Major League Baseball, like what they say, the attendance is up more this year than it ever has been after they got destroyed in the
Yes.
preseason about all the changes. And so, It's been great. I think the normal fan, not the diehard baseball person who's steeped in tradition, but the normal fan who just wants to go to a game and have fun with their family and then get out of there at a reasonable hour has been able to do that now.
We need
And
to get
so,
Taylor Swift to
so
date a baseball player.
yeah, so it would bring a whole different clientele to this market. So for sure.
Do you have standards for the program?
Absolutely. I think that's a good way to say it is standards. Like, I think people will call them rules. Like, I don't like rules. Like, rules involve you having to, you specifically do something. A standard is an expectation. Like, it's what it is. And we just say the standard is the standard. Whatever we set is that bar, and that's what everybody should be at, the minimum of what we should be at. And so, whether it's something as simple as is our appearance, or something as simple as, how we play on the field and get on and off the field and how we compete and things like that. Every coach has a differing opinion on this and differing standards, but I think I would be shocked if any coach says they don't have any. I think everybody does. I think everybody knows what they're supposed to look like, and that's our job as coaches, like to teach our kids, like, listen, you don't always get to walk out in the world and do what you want to do.
Exactly.
There's an expectation of standard in every business office you go into, every education, scenario you go into, whether, whatever that job vocation is, there's going to be a standard and an expectation when you get there. And so, for them to be more adaptable, and being able to change and quickly into that environment is very important life skill. And so, and to make sure they know that that's a part of what they have to do.
And I pay attention to the little things still, and that was the thing that stuck out in Lewiston, as Lewis Clark State's players were polishing their shoes before the game. Like, and I told Coach Taylor that, I'm like, for me, like, that's still an important thing for me. Their guys were cleaning their shoes before the
So,
game.
yeah, absolutely. And that's, that you're talking about, culture and tradition and standard, that program could arguably be the staple. I think
For any
Vanderbilt,
level of college
yeah,
baseball.
I think Vanderbilt's up there too. Coach Corbin does a tremendous job in that area. But I think, over the history of time, like, I feel like that program alone has been unchanged in regards to some of the things they do. They probably are still, and they were a new school before teams were a new school in regards to their thinking, like setting up jugs machines, throwing 88-mile-an-hour sliders when they knew they were going to face a guy that was that. Now, people would have just thrown traditional BP back then and said, we just can't hit the guy. For them, it was figuring out a way how they could compete and win that game. And so they set up the most realistic environment they could, and so, I think it's taken a while to get into this side of the game, but I think now you'd be shocked to find teams that aren't using hack attacks or jugs machines or things like that and creating velo and spin rate and, heavy breaking balls and things like that.
Did your master's of sports science help you?
I think it has. Like, I really do. For me, that was a Coach Alltop thing. He kept telling me, he's like, hey, you want to coach at this level? A lot of times there's a master's requirement, for a head coach and things like that. Because sometimes there's some teaching responsibilities, which there was at Lee at the time. Now, fortunately, the school has decided to navigate away from that in the NCAA era, where they don't ask coaches to teach. But at the same time, like, for me, I was able to see something in that experience in regards to different methodologies of coaching, things like that, learning from John Wooden. I remember a book I read in my master's, and I knew who John Wooden was, but I'd never really studied him, and some of the things he brought to the table in regards to, how to coach and how to impact people and things like that.
The pyramid,
And
the
so
coaching pyramid.
yeah, absolutely, 100%. And so things like that, even sports agents, something I never thought would be an issue that I would need to know. And we've been blessed to have 30 plus guys in my time sign contracts and two fourth rounders and a seventh rounder. And so, for me, it was like, I didn't give those guys advice, but I was able to give them some nuts and bolts, of hey, yeah, you probably need to get an advisor. You probably need to, seek out some counsel here because, this is a little bigger than me. It's a little bigger than you, and you want to make sure you're being treated fairly and those things. And so, something as simple as a class like that I thought I was just taking as an elective class because I thought, oh, that would be cool, has helped me out a little bit in regards to just, giving guys some of the behind the scenes type stuff.
What are your thoughts about being named the Dave Kylitz Ethics and Coaching Award winner this year?
Yeah. When I first heard, be honest with you, like, wow, it's a big wow factor, a lot of humility. First of all, a quick backstory with Dave Kylitz. Like, as a young coach roaming the halls of the ABCA and seeing this guy on the stage at honors luncheons, at Hall of Fame dinners, at on the main stage, and like you're just like, who's this guy? Who's this mythical guy? When you see him up there, and then I had an opportunity to pass by him in the halls one day, and he was talking to somebody, and I was kind of talking to somebody else, and I came out of that conversation, and he came out of that conversation, and he will probably never remember this because he's probably had a million conversations, but he took the time for like 20 minutes to talk to me as a young coach and talk about where I was and what I was doing and, my goals and desires and things like that. And I'm like, wow, here's a guy that's ahead of this, taking his moment. He's got a meeting to be to. He's in a full suit. He's getting somewhere, so, it meant a lot to me in that moment. Little did I know, full circle back here to today, I get that notification and I'm like, wow, just to think of what I kind of verbiage like integrity, character, just everything I learned through Coach Alltop and him being in some areas and some board meetings and things like that of who Dave Kylitz was behind the scenes was clearly who he was in every situation. And so
all you need to know about Dave is he still handwrites thank you notes.
Yes,
and you still get them from him.
Literally,
him
100%.
and Norm DeBryan were my two guys when I was coming out. That if you called them, they had no business calling me back. They didn't have to, but they did. Those two guys were the two guys that I knew that if I called them and I needed something, they eventually would call me back.
Yeah, and I mean, literally on cue, as you said, like when the announcement came out and I was notified within 3 days, I had a handwritten note from Dave Kylitz himself, congratulating me and I mean I should be congratulating him, for all of his contributions to our game and the coaching fraternity and things like that, and so many more places that we don't see where he is in helping shape the game and things like that. But yeah, it was amazing, and a little bit of feeling inadequate, to live up to that type of person. And so, but certainly honored and super excited that someone thought enough about me to throw my name in there. And then a committee of people thought enough about me to say that I was deserving of it.
And looking at your roster, it seems like it's still majority of high school kids. You've got some transfers and some 4-year transfers mixed in, but still a majority of high school kids.
Yeah, for us, the high school window has been the biggest window for us, and in a post-COVID era, to be honest with you, there's some really, really good high school players out there right now. The portal is raging. Though you could sit on there and try to pick kids off the portal, like for us, like I like the opportunity of having that impact and influence in in a 4-year window. Some of our best players on our roster have been guys that have come straight out of high school, so for us, it's been that model and that methodology to keep going. We've got a few portal kids. We've got a handful of JC transfers, but, the majority of it is high school kids. We have our prospect camp coming up at the end of the month. And like I tell kids all the time, because a lot of people think prospect camps are money makers, and though it helps our program financially, helps our assistant coaches financially, for us, like it's become our biggest window into one of our biggest recruiting items. So we'll sign, over the next 2 years from this year's prospect camp. I guarantee you there'll be 6 to 8 kids there that will.
We always sign kids out of our camp, always, because you got a chance to work with kids.
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
was a big piece to see if they could actually handle your coaching style and if they were going to be a good fit.
Yeah, 100%. So it's been big for us and been big for our program, and a good provider of a lot of our players. I think I looked at our roster, and over 70% of our incoming freshmen had been to a prospect camp at some point in time.
When you were transitioning to Division II, were there any Division II private schools that you reached out to be like, hey, do you have any tips for making this transition?
You know, I probably didn't. I probably reached out to more some the coaches in our conference. To be honest with you, I didn't know them real well. I knew a handful of guys in regards to professionally, but I didn't know them well. And I was very honored that they took a moment to give me some advice, give me some pieces of the puzzle. I figured if I was going to be competing against them, I might as well, ask them some things about process, about, things like that. And so, they were all very good about that. And I they could have easily been guarded. They could have easily been, here comes another competitor in the league, as far as that goes. And, I don't need to help them out. But I think that shows the difference in the coaching world that baseball has versus maybe, basketball or football. I think a lot of times in the coaching world, we're sharing like our convention. You look at it, it's just like you got a side session over here, you got a main stage, you got the, you know, the, you know, all these different venues going on. And then, you may have just people in the lobby talking, it's like, and it's not immune to level. It's not immune to anything. I've gotten in conversations with high level Division I coaches, and I've gotten in conversations with travel ball coaches and middle school coaches. And so, it's all been the same. Everybody just has passion to learn. And then I hear my counterparts with basketball. I was like, yeah, well, I don't get to see this coach, or we don't get to talk. We don't usually get to shake hands. They get whisked out, behind the scenes and things like that. And I get it. There's a different microscope maybe on those people, but at the same time, like, hey, we're all trying to grow the sport. We're all trying to improve the sport. And, end of the day, the plate's 17 inches, as the famous John Scalino said. And, it's what it is. It's always been that way. So there's nothing changing in regards to that piece of the game, just maybe how we get there.
Is that a benefit with high school kids because you have all fall? I always felt like that was the benefit with baseball is you're not competing until the spring, so you have an entire fall to try to get them acclimated and ready to compete.
Yeah, it's huge for us. I mean, it's a big window. Obviously a lot of scrimmaging, a lot of opportunity to work with them in practice and, get them to up to speed with the game speed of the game. Because that's probably the biggest difference. I tell them all the time, like you come in, it's not ability that's the difference between you and our seniors. You have a talent just like they do. They have experience, they have maturation, and they have probably more time, more years in the strength program with us. And so, you control what you control. The strength is a big piece of the puzzle. You're pounding the weight room, you're getting caught up there. And then on the field, obviously you're getting reps and you're getting that information, and it can be a little bit information overload. So you got to be careful with freshmen, that you don't get them, what we call sped up a little bit in regards to not being able to manage situations and things like that. They need to learn how to process it and do a good job with it. So fortunately for us, we've been able to get a lot of good players. And I think also freshmen are more impressionable in regards to, like, when we get a transfer, usually they're a product of, especially on the hitting side, where they were. So junior colleges, you see a ton of fastballs. Like, it's just the way it is in that environment. So they learn to hit fastball, which is okay. But our league can be a lot more pitch backwards mix, and so they have their fall is a nightmare sometimes, struggle because they don't come up to speed. Whereas the freshmen, like, they don't have any background or base on that level. So they're ready to listen to whatever thing, you tell them and how you want to grow them and how you want to develop them. And so, so it's definitely been awesome. I love that opportunity to have that experience with them and, for 4 years.
So you say you guys competed. So what does it look like when they first show up on campus for y'all as far as team meetings? When do you start team practice, individual sessions?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, Division II has a 4-day window that we're not allowed to touch them. So, it's an acclimation process to class, and understandably so. A lot of them are trying to just figure out where the classroom is at that point in time. And so it gives them that window to do that opportunity to do that. we'll have some meetings just on some general academic expectations and things like that in that window, but we're not allowed to talk about baseball until that fourth day. And so when we hit that fourth day, we spend about 3 weeks in skill. Skill is smaller sessions, you know, opportunity to teach the verbiage, opportunity to teach, routines and things like that, and a smaller setting so they're not overwhelmed by it. And then, meetings, kind of going over hitting philosophy, pitching philosophy, some defensive routines and things like that, and allows us the window. Base running, we hit hard, because like, listen, I think it's one of the most neglected parts of coaching in the
Look at the
game.
big leagues now.
And
Those guys
so, yeah,
make so many base
so
running mistakes now, and they're the
yeah,
best we have.
yeah, yeah, that's right. And sometimes they're the worst examples. And so, things like that, we don't want to take, uh, with casualness. We want to make sure we're serious about it. So spend about 3 weeks in that, and then we come out of that and go into our fall practice session, which is where we currently reside, and we'll be in there till the 1st of November. And we get 33 practice dates in a 45-day window, and then we come back out of that. We'll go straight back into that skill, and the post practice is more of a, okay, now what are the things we need to improve? What are those individual skills we need over the next 3 or 4 weeks until we hit Christmas break that we need to improve? And so it allows them a good snapshot, kind of getting caught up to speed in that first 3 weeks, getting the team setting, for a month and a half, and then coming out of it and getting a little bit more knowledge and information on the back end as far as that goes. And then, obviously get that small break for us this year. We're taking our team to the Dominican Republic on December 6th to the 14th. And so, we're super excited about that. Number one,
Is that the first time you've done that?
this will be our third trip. So super excited because it's a opportunity in a country that, number one, we all know baseball's king. It is. And so you go down there, you automatically got a platform and an opportunity to wade into the country and have an opportunity to impact them. We do clinics, we do opportunities to share, we visit, orphanages, and it's just, some's humanitarian, some's faith based, and some is baseball. And so we want to mesh it all together and
That's a
have a
big
great
team building
experience down.
trip, correct?
So
It's a
it'd
huge
be a great team
trip.
building trip. It'd be tremendous. And so we worked hard. We're working our butts off on fundraising and all those things that have to happen to make a trip like this happen. But we've had some super people step up. The families have stepped up. And so with that being said, we're going to make that trip and, have a great opportunity there to, have an extra week and a half basically that we normally wouldn't have had. And, right there. And then we'll break for Christmas. And, before we know it, we're rolling. February 1st or first week of February is our opener as D2, and the big boys D1 a couple weeks later. So we're excited about that.
When do you start talking about roles with your players?
Yeah, I mean, they're evolving right now. I think it's hard to talk about it in the fall, at least initially early, because, some people have no track record. And we tell our guys, the biggest part of the recruiting process, the biggest question I get asked is, how do I get on the field early in my career? Where do you see me at in playing time and things like that? It's a fair question, because they want to know. Well, for us, the answer is simple. Like, players say, play me and I'll show you, coach. And I say, you show me and I'll play you. Like every day you pick up a ball, every day you take BP, every day you bullpen, every day you scrimmage, you're showing me a lot. And so we from what we could consider our top returning pitcher to maybe the lowest guy on the depth chart, we'll get the same amount of innings in the fall. Same thing on at bats, because we want the litmus test to be the same across the board. And so, so that's their way and their opportunity and their path to learning and to growing and to doing that. But back to roles, like I think once we've got out of fall practice, I think we have an initial conversation about it, about, hey, here's some things you need to work on. Here's some things you need to improve as a player, whether it's physical or whether it's mental or whether it's, some of our academic conversations and things like that, that all weigh into decision making in regards to playing time. And so, you want to have that opportunity for them to be able to respond, so if they never know until they show up in January, and it's almost too late in their minds, to make adjustments and to make change. and things like that. So it's a post fall conversation for us in regards to team practice, and then allowing them to hopefully make some necessary adjustments.
Have you adjusted your in-game responsibilities at all over the years?
Yes, I coached third base originally. You know, I don't even know what year it was. I just made a decision that I was having a hard time managing bullpen
I was the same way.
and
I was the same way.
and the offense, and so we use on the zone right now for the armbands and things like that. So I can call that from the dugout. I'm like, I'm really putting myself in a situation where I'm making what 3, 4 calls to advance a runner a game at third base, and over being able to be in the dugout, have a feel for what's going on in there, have a feel for being able to manage the bullpen. Because a lot of times the bullpen is going on, or you needing to flip the situation when a big offensive inning happens. Like we've had pitchers that be throwing a 1-0 shutout, and in the seventh inning, and all of a sudden, you get a 7-run outburst, and they're sitting over there, sitting over there, sitting over there at 90 pitches, and you're like, this just ain't probably going to be good to send them back out. But you're screaming at your pitching coach across the field to get somebody rolling, and so it's just not good. And so that's probably the main change I have made in regards to in-game coaching. I still do defensive positioning. It's my thing. We do 6-4-3 charts. We do things that we invest in. We do a lot of, scouting reports and things like that. So, if we're going to have this information, I want to be able to implement it. And my pitching coach is calling pitches, and my hitting coach is usually communicating with hitters, though he could probably, do this. He's talking to bench personnel, things like that about possible pinch hit stuff. So it's just my thing, as far as that goes. So that's probably those main things.
I saw a picture on the website. So how do you handle your senior day?
It's changed. We strictly had no senior day up until post COVID, and we always do a parents weekend, and then we honor seniors there. But I kind of felt like, in COVID, we weren't able to do those parents dinners and that opportunity. So we re-implemented the senior day on the field, and I thought, well, moving forward, we'll just do it both places. We'll still have the parents weekend. We'll still have the opportunity to honor them there in front of all the families, but we'll still do it in the final senior home weekend, that is tradition for most teams. So
Are you doing after the game?
So we do it in the middle of a doubleheader usually, or I'm sorry, pre doubleheader. Sorry,
Yeah.
Usually have a Saturday doubleheader. We'll usually go out, probably before the pregame introductions, as far as that goes.
Yeah, or Roberts does it after the game. I thought that was actually a pretty good idea.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's emotional for those guys, emotional for the
It
parents,
is.
emotional for the coaches.
Yeah, it's
I
not a
felt
bad
like,
idea. So
yeah, it's
it is
interesting.
a gut wrenching day, and
Yeah.
bringing closure to it. And for us, I mean, obviously, you hope postseason is still ongoing. You hope you have that opportunity in front of you. The biggest thing that we've had to implement and to honor them is commencement. Like graduation is usually at our conference tournament, and so we're not on campus. And so we have a faculty mentor, Dr. Jason Robinson, and as a representative of the school, he drives down to our conference tournament site and confers the degrees on site. And so we have a ceremony either in a hotel lobby, or we've gone out to the park. They got a nice gazebo out on a lake. We've done all kinds of things. And so it's just a way to say, number one, that completion of that piece. And so, and obviously as a coach, that's an exciting moment, for families and for the player and for us personally. Like it's the culmination of the academic experience.
You have a great stadium at Lee. Did you have to do fundraising for that, or the university take
So
care of it?
fortunately for us, the university self-funded.
Oh,
Dr.
that's awesome.
Conator, that at the time, it was always on the drawing board for a long time. Even when Coach Altop was the head coach here, it was on the drawing board, and it really, I can remember we were getting ready to go to the conference tournament, and we were practicing, and I think it was 2018, and this bus pulls up, and that's around like the week of commencement because we're getting ready to leave and go, and the board of directors are in town, and they do meetings around that. And so all these suits start jumping off this bus, and I'm like, well, this is interesting. Either I'm going to be fired, or Something's going. They're going to tell me baseball's been, canceled or whatever. And then our president walks out leading all these guys, and we're taking BPs. I had to shut down BP, and so he walks out there and says, "Hey, coach," he said, just letting you know that we've had a board meeting and it's official now. We're going to build the stadium next year. And so I was like, "That's awesome." This is dream come true because it's been there for a while. It has been a big asset for us in recruiting process, and obviously player experience. Our locker room's great. Some of the things we have with it are great, and so it's been a big improvement for our program.
You have 2 kids, correct?
I do.
I mean,
I
how did
do.
you
So,
incorporate everybody with your family into the program?
bus rides. Like we homeschooled. We made a decision to homeschool our kids. My wife's a teacher. For us, it was, um, bringing them to the field, bringing them to the road trips, and so very blessed and very fortunate we had the opportunity to do that. Wouldn't have changed anything for the world. So it's awesome. Been a great experience, and they've grown up around the field all their life, and so that's been awesome. My daughters are freshmen at Bryan College now playing volleyball. My son's a senior here in town. Left-handed pitcher, so super excited.
Is he going to play for you?
Well, I can neither confirm nor deny that via NCAA rules. I'll let you read into that however you want to.
Because I grew up with it, so I'm fascinated by the father son relationship, just because I grew up in it and I did it and I participated in it as a player, and I would go back and do it again. I tell coaches that all the time that have kids. I'm like, if you need me to talk to your son, I will do it, and I will tell them. I know everybody does it a little different, but I do feel like for the son and for the dad, it's if you have that opportunity, if they're good enough, it is the best thing that you'll ever experience. And when you look at like historically, that's usually one loss record wise. It's usually the
Sure.
best 4 year span that a coach has with his kid on the team because I think it shows a different side to the players in the program too. I just think it opens a lot of things up. Again, if it works, I would highly recommend it to anybody
Yeah.
to coach their
No,
kids.
it's great advice, and I've sought out that advice from lots of people
It's
that have
hard.
had
It
that
is really
dynamic.
hard. It's
And
difficult.
so the
There's
natural fear of a young man coming into a program playing for his dad is will I be accepted into the locker room?
for sure. And
And
I'm glad I
then
grew up in the era that I did. You
so,
didn't have social
yeah,
media. Like
so,
there's a lot of other
sure,
factors now
yeah,
that factor into that because of outside noise where
sure.
we didn't really have to worry about that in the
No,
in the
you're right. You're
90s.
right. 100%. So.
Yep. Any recommendations for young coaches trying to get in?
I mean, get involved, like in whatever capacity you can. Like, I mean, it's the start that stops most, like you just got to get going. Like, whatever you got to do to take those steps, volunteering, grad assistant, going to a high school and volunteering, whatever you got to do to get into that window, it's awesome. No, very rarely does somebody get a great opportunity in their first job or first opportunity, so it's just getting started and then plugging in like to the ABCA and plugging into resources and things like that to help grow yourself, as a young coach, and it could be an older coach. Like, I mean, I've heard our lacrosse coach here started his lacrosse coaching career because he had a professional FBI and law enforcement career much later in his life because his daughter was involved in it. And so he became our head coach here. And so, so things like that, like, don't let any variables or hindrances stop you. Just go. And if it's really what you want to get into, get involved, people, talk to people, and coaches are sharing. It's a sharing community, as we talked about earlier. Like, I think if you reach out, I think you'll get some responses of how to get in, how to do things, whether you want to shadow somebody to practice. I know Tim Corbin's been tremendous with that in regards to, I've had assistants that want to see how other things are done, and they'll just go up and watch him practice for a day, sit in the stands, and so it's awesome stuff. Like I said, it's just a different world in the baseball world.
Yeah, that was interesting. For me, when I was playing at Evansville my senior year, we had a fall break, so I went to the University of Florida to experience Gator Growl, their homecoming. But Florida was practicing, and Andy Lopez was the coach at
Yeah,
Florida at the time. And I didn't go introduce myself, but I watched that whole
Yeah.
practice, and I learned a lot. He
Yeah.
had a screen set up in center field. He was in the middle of the field the entire inter squad, coaching
Yep.
from center
Yep.
field, so he could be on top of the defenders. It was awesome.
100%. Like the dugout sometimes is the worst view for a
Yes.
coach because that's the only view we get in a game.
Yep.
And so, like when I scrimmage, we scrimmage, I wander around like I'm all over. Like you'll see me in center field, you'll see me in third base, you'll see me at first base, you'll see me behind the backstop, and like it just is different views for me. And I think that's an important point.
Yeah. You talked about the portal a little bit, and you're going through it. You've got a high school age kid. I mean, for parents and players out there that are maybe, disheartened by the portal, I don't think it has to be a thing because I still think there's options for high school kids out there. You're a great example of that. What advice would you give to a high school kid and a parent right now?
Yeah. I mean, obviously the cliche says get the best fit, like, I mean, it's so true. Like, I think we rush to win the press conference, we rush to win the social media, you know, whatever you want to put out there in regards to I'm committing to XYZ University, like really do your due diligence. Like go out, visit. Sometimes doors will be closed, doors will be opened, and make it obvious and have pointed conversations with coaches like when you're being recruited about, you know, personnel and things like that and how many portal players they do bring in. Like I think it's a fair question in today's environment. And you can look that up a lot of times on your own, but
It's
at the
readily
same time,
available
like,
online if you
yeah,
want to do the
it's just,
research. It's readily
if you
available.
see they're bringing in, 20 portal guys a year, well, there's a good chance they're losing how many portal guys a year, so it's a natural thought process. So find schools that kids are having consistency at, and if that's your desire, but kids are betting on themselves, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. By all means, I'd rather have that mindset than somebody who's very cautious in their approach. But there's certainly got to be some checks and balances involved there in regards to how you go through and navigate that process because you want to make sure that it's what is right for you. There's nothing better than a great 4-year experience. There's nothing better than that. So these guys are going to be your best man in your wedding. They'll be some of the best friends of your life. And then I'm even on a group chat with high school guys. And some of us went to college together, and so it's like we shared a lot of the same experiences, and we still talk about those today. So it's awesome.
Do you have a fail forward moment? Do you have something you thought was going to sidetrack you, but looking back now, it helped you move forward?
Um,
Were you in the real world for a little bit? Were you working a real job for a little bit before you got into coaching?
no, there's just a lot of fail forward moments. I use this as Coach Alltop's teaching moment for me. Like as a young coach, I had an assistant coach. I had a lot of things figured out, as most people do, right? And for me, like we'd have meetings, weekly and go over practice and go over things. And one time in particular, he kept bringing something up and I kept forgetting it. And like, I never wrote it down. And finally, one time he was like, listen, get a piece of pen, or get a pen, get a piece of paper and write it down on the paper and then execute it, and I'm like, it was a big moment for me. Now, my desk is a check sheet, it's stuff that I have to get done. And from that point forward, it changed kind of my mindset in regards to, making sure I had everything covered. And I still miss things, but at the same time, like you can't remember everything in your mind. You can't, you got to have a routine. As Brian Cain would say, the routine is the foundation of all success. And it is. It's like if you don't have one and you can't go through it, you're going to be all over the place as a coach. And so that's something I had to learn as a young coach and had to grow as a young coach and make sure I could handle.
Yeah, that's in my talk for peak performance and habit building that I give at the clinics. You're 3 times more likely to remember something if you write it down, but also everything that I have to do goes in my Google Calendar, and if it's not in there, it does not exist. I just think it
Yeah.
takes it frees more time up if you can plan your week out and check things off. I think it allows you to have more free time, where if you don't have some system in place to keep you organized, you're going to drink from the fire hose most days, and like that, you are going to miss things, you're going to lose things, and for me, I'm very paranoid about letting things slide, so I have to try to
Yeah.
keep myself in check some way.
Yeah. No question. No question. Very important life skill.
Yeah.
So,
Do you have any more morning routines, evening routines that you do every
yeah.
day that you like?
Morning routine for me is get up. I like spend some quiet time, with a few things, collect my thoughts for the day. People call it meditation. I'll call it prayer and opportunity to kind of get grounded for the day. And then I usually like to try to get a 1 or 2 mile run in. It allows me that same opportunity just to have some opportunity to collect my thoughts and think about the day, think about practice, think about what things we're going to try to accomplish that day. I don't feel like I think about it when I run. I feel like I think about surviving the run, but at the same time, like it does clear me up. It does allow me the opportunity to, you know, get all that done and get collected for the day. If I don't get all that done by say 8 a.m., it's a bad day for me usually. Like it's just a bad day because I feel like I'm behind. I feel like I'm missing stuff and things like that. And so that's my routine. For me, I'm pretty routine oriented. So it's our guys would probably say I'm pretty regimented in regards to things like that.
Discipline
But
is freedom.
so yeah,
Discipline is
so it's
freedom.
just the way I operate, and it allows me to get ready for the day and carry out everything. And my goal is to try to accomplish every task before noon, and then I can focus clearly on practice at that point in time. I don't have anything administratively, office responsibility waiting on me or anything like that. I can strictly focus on practice and then go home and hang out with my family. So.
Will this be a different convention for you since you're being honored?
It is, I'll be honest with you, I get a little angst about going up on the stage. Like that's one of my first thoughts is going back. Like, I've never been on the main stage before. It's like, I've been close to it, but I haven't been on it. I've watched it. So yeah, but it'll be special, obviously, and like I said, I can't thank the people that nominated me enough. I can't thank the committee enough. And I can't thank the namesake of the award, Dave Kowitz, enough, just because, he's done so much for this profession and that simple conversation he had with me multiple years ago, made a mark on me and, as a coach. And so I've tried to stay engaged in conversation when I have that opportunity to talk to people because, like, I'm sure he had somewhere to go, but he took the time to talk to me. So,
Any changes you'd like to see going forward for Division Two?
um, you know, regionalization, is a model that D2 has hung its hat on. I would love a day where NAI got it right, when they went to the opening round and then moving teams around and you're staying out of your conference and things like that, unless a rarity happens, that's the next step for me. Obviously expansion of the field, to 64 would be awesome. I get it. Everything revolves around the almighty dollar, but I think if they were to be creative, I think they could come up with a plan that probably in the end of the day wouldn't cost them much more, in regards to moving teams around and things like that, even if it's taking just two regions and taking a 1, 4, 5, and 8 of one region and flipping them over. But I know we'd have to get to 64 for that to work, because some regions have an uneven number right now, either 6, 7, or 8 members in your region tournament. So those are the type of things I would like to see moving forward. I think,
I know they do
right
use as
now
like participation as part of that too, though. Like however many teams you have competing that
it
get, but
is.
again, that's an excuse to not spend more money.
Yeah, it's the old access ratio argument that they throw out there every time. And like I get it. Like, I mean, listen, I've gone on this committees, to number one, I wanted to help the game, but number two, I wanted to learn about the behind the scenes of what happened. I was on the NCAA rules committee until this year. I rotated off. And so part of it for me was growing and learning, like, how does this happen? How does this rule change happen? How did these things come apart? Because I think, truth be told, I think the NCAA gets a black eye in some instances in regards to they have this gavel and they just slam it down and then it's law. But there's way more process to it than that. And some coaches and some administrators and some SWAs and things like that have parts of the process. And so, it's not like this all just comes about, so it helped me understand that a little bit. But I think when it boils down to money, they do have the ultimate end all, as far as that goes. And so, just give us 1% of that BCS or whatever they call it now, playoff, and then March Madness, we would be in a good spot.
Yeah. What are some final thoughts before I let you go?
No, I just thankful for having me on, and thankful for the opportunity to uh, get this award. Wow, like I said, amazing that it's happened, and honored that it's happened, and super excited for the year for the Flames, and we're looking forward to it, and ready to take on this season and see how things go.
Thanks for your time, Coach. I'll see you in Dallas.
Absolutely, Ryan. We'll see you.